Everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I'll read the notice of the meeting. There will be a meeting of the New Hampshire Fish and Game Commission on Tuesday, December 19th, 2023 at 1 p.m. at the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department, 11 Hazen Drive, Concord, New Hampshire, 03301. The public is entitled to attend all commission meetings, and when recognized by the chairman, the public may speak on any item on the agenda. The chairman reserves the right to limit public comments to the extent necessary to the orderly conduct of the meeting. Move on to action items. Approval of the November 14, 2023 commission minutes.
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the November 14, 2023 commission minutes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, stand approved. Action item 1A, the presentation of the Commission Awards of Excellence. I'll turn it over to Commissioner DeRosa, who is the chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Eric. These awards are really important because this department has its hands really full to achieve a lot of our mission that relies often on private citizens and even in some cases public servants that are going beyond their normal duties. I'm going to pass off the first one to Paul DeVoe, who's going to present the Youth Conservation Award.
Thank you, AJ. So I'm in Grafton County. I'm as far east as you can get. I'm hanging almost into the neighboring counties, but Hanover's at the far other side, and that's where our candidate, Ezra McKinley Smith, is from. Ezra, you want to come up? Ezra has been a member of the Trout Unlimited Green Mountain Club. He's very active in the Hanover Conservation Conservancy group over there. Spent hundreds of hours putting together a video detailing all of the wonders of the wetlands and the wet areas that we like to protect. And it's very exciting to see kids his age, young adults his age, getting outdoors and enjoying all that nature offers. And he's done a lot of community work over there to get more people outdoors and protect habitats. So I'd like to present the 2022 Youth Conservation Award to Ezra McKinley Smith.
The next award is the Habitat Stewardship Award. Is Paul Wainwright here? Paul. I spoke at great length to people about what you've done.
I wasn't sure what I did, so I thought
I grew up hunting that neck of the woods, so I'm no stranger to Atkinson, New Hampshire, but I know you put a lot of work into protecting lands. Lands often open to hunters, more often than not, is my understanding. Thank you. Habitat is how we rely on the things that we need to survive as an organization for our constituents to enjoy the outdoors of the state. So there you go.
Thank you. If I could just say two things. I didn't win this award all by myself. I have a lot of support, and I'd like to call out two people in particular. One is Mr. Bob Warden, one of my selectmen, who is very, very supportive of the conservation in our town. And the other is Barbara Richter, whom I know a lot of you know, the executive director of the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And she is a wealth of knowledge and support, not only for our commission, but all the commissions in the state. And this award would not have been possible without the work of those two individuals and many, many, many others. So thank you very much.
Thank you. come up for this. Search and rescue is a significant part of what our department does, and we often rely on the help of other organizations, in this case, the National Guard, which I believe last night assisted in a search and rescue mission?
Correct.
Okay. So yes, thank you. I see a number of people showed up, but would you like to say anything
Sure.
in regards to
Major, can we have the team come up?
Yeah, let's come right up here. Yeah. So as Commissioner DeRosa said, the New Hampshire National Guard's been an integral part of search and rescue here in New Hampshire. And when these guys get involved, it never means life or death. And how timely last night, I had to put a call in. We had 6 residents in Conway get stranded that ended up on their roofs of their house for a flood. And they could not get swiftwater teams into them, and the only way they could get them out is these guys flew the Blackhawk and picked them up off the roofs. So, 3 of the
Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Thayer, down from the North Country. I'm representing the New Hampshire Outdoor Council, as well as the Appalachian Mountain Club. I work for the Appalachian Mountain Club. New Hampshire has a very strong public-private partnership when it comes to search and rescue, grounded by, of course, the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department, our conservation officers, but backed up ably by the New Hampshire National Guard and dozens of other teams. It was an easy nomination to put in the New Hampshire National Guard for this well-deserved award, and we congratulate them for their service to patients across the rugged landscape of New Hampshire. But on behalf of everyone who carries the litters and everything, it's also very nice oftentimes to see Blackhawks appear overhead and pluck off patients who need to get help. So thank you and congratulations.
And the last award to go out today is the Ellis Hatch Award, which is named after one of our former commissioners. Ray Green is going to present that award.
You know, the Ellis Hatch Award is one of our prestigious awards, and I couldn't offer this to a more prestigious person, but Mr. Bob LaRue, could you come up here, please?
Oh, yeah.
Bob LaRue was a state rep for many, many years. One of the things that Bob, I'm going to say, is famous for, or a lot of people recognize him for anyways, is actually that Bob, along with Commissioner Stoll when he was a rep, were the ones who spearfronted the hunt of a lifetime. Bob has always supported Fish and Game in more ways that people don't even see. He donated equipment into our canine funds, very big on our donating equipment to the, our fishing programs for the children. But one of the things that Bob also did for some of us older people, if you remember when Bob actually started the running TV show Outdoors with Bob. If any of you younger folks never saw it, it's on the Idea of Mutual of Omaha. Very much behind it, very much watched. And Bob started that. And his support for Fish and Game in the outdoors here in New Hampshire, especially towards our younger groups and for our next generations ahead. Bob, I want to present to you the 2022 Ellis Hatch Junior Commission Award of Excellence. course we can.
Well, it depends what they are.
Yeah.
What she wants to take a picture.
Last year, I put my wife's name in for the Ellis Hatcher Award, not realizing who was running. An outstanding candidate. I served with Bob for a few terms in the New Hampshire legislature on the Fish and Game Committee. He was outstanding. I thought I knew it all when I got there. He taught me an awful lot. He taught me how to be humble a little bit, which is very hard. He fought in every way he could. In fact, this commission is here because of some of his votes. There were times when they tried to eliminate the commission in the legislature. Bob was right there every time we needed to battle for our benefits and for the things we stood for. Thank you for people like him. I wish we'd have more in this world.
Yay.
Go ahead. You're the honor. I'm just, you want to eat more. Plan could keep track and do it.
Fran wants to take a picture, but she wants me in the group.
She bring brownies?
No.
Okay, congratulations to all the recipients. We're going on with our meeting now. You're free to stay or you're free to leave, whatever you would like to do. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. The following items have been grouped together and noticed as consent agenda items to expedite action on routine matters, which may not require public discussion. The commission members may remove certain items if further public input discussion is deemed necessary. Item 2A, approval to accept the donation of $50 from Paul St. Carlos, New Hampshire. All gift donations account for use by the non-game program. Can everybody hear me? Okay. 2B, approval to accept the donation of $500 from James and Elizabeth Whale of Baltimore, New Hampshire, deposited in the small gifts and donations account for use by the non-game. 2C, approval to accept the donation of $100 from the Milford Yacht Club to be used by the Conservation Education Program. 2D, approval to accept the donation of $20 from Margaret Kilrain of Manchester, New Hampshire, to be deposited in the small gifts and donations account. Approval to accept the donation of $200 from Frank Dubin, deposited into the Operation Games account to go towards the purchase of a decoy deer. Decoy. And 2F, approval to accept the donation of $50 from the New Hampshire Trappers Association to go towards the purchase of life-saving equipment that would not otherwise be possible due to the budget constraints. Is that the right? Life-saving equipment?
I took that straight off of law enforcement's items.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to approve items 2A through 2F.
Make a motion to accept items 2A.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded to accept items 2A through 2F. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Stand approved. Informational items. Financial statement. Everybody got a copy of the financial statement that Kathy sent out with the mailing? Anybody have any questions on that statement?
Did you also receive my email clarifying the
Number 2,
balance?
update. Excuse me.
Yeah. Just want to make sure you received my email clarifying the balance in there.
One more time, Kathy.
I sent out an email because I wanted to clarify the balance in there that looked like it was high.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure you all understood all that. Okay. Thank you.
Number 2, update on the Hatchery modernization project. Diane Timmons.
Dan's gonna be my clicker, so we don't have the volume issues like we always do if we do it from home. So, as it's just, hit F8. It'll be on your screen, and then just change it to duplicate or whatever. So what I'm passing out right now is just an update. How did I do that? And then-
Have this one, sure can. No problem.
Because I counted you guys, so not good Northampton, sorry about that. Hi everyone, thank you. Commission, hello. So I just wanted to pass out what that is an update as we go through. I'll explain, but so very excited. Last Wednesday, the Governor and Council approved our contract with HDR Engineering. So we can now talk about the fact that we have an engineer that's going to move forward with designing the modernization project for New Hampton Hatchery. Next slide. So this is the conceptual layout, so just so folks understand, this is the old B station and the old C station. The lower part down below versus the part behind Region 2. Region 2's office, so this will replace everything that's currently there. Slide. The proposed summary of production, so obviously the existing is where we're at right now, and actually we're a little bit higher on Twin, just because of changes with Powder Mill that we've already made, shortages with Rainbows, trying to be able to figure out where we can best manage and maintain our stocking numbers. So Twin is actually already at 23,000, just to give you an existing, these are moving targets. We're doing the best we can, and we're absolutely going to be maximizing whatever we can, where we can. And then the proposed section is really the proposed for the actual completion of the project, when we're all said and done with New Hampton. So basically sometime after 2026, when the ARPA money, when the ARPA money is finalized, December 2026, obviously we'll be moving in, done with construction at that point, and then moving toward figuring out where things are going to go and how things are going to settle.
So notice the reduction at Powder Mill. We have negotiated keeping Powder Mill open with the EPA, and we're going to meet our 12 part per billion discharge permit by reducing the number of fish there. One of the things that HDR, as part of the original study we did with HDR, as I explained to Bruce's committee a couple months ago, they could not guarantee that we could hit 12 parts per billion even after spending $60-some odd million on water treatment there. So at that point, we started looking at, what else could we do to maintain the fish production that we need for the state, and also hit the new requirements that the EPA has given us at Powder Mill. You'll notice a slight shift at Berlin. I may get us a little lost up there, but for those of you that know the hatchery, if you're standing up by the hatchery house itself, all the raceways and the round tanks between that and the river there, we are currently raising trout in those locations only. We are in the process, we haven't finished the oxygenation.
Adding oxygen.
Adding oxygen to that water, we haven't finished that quite yet, right?
We're very close.
Okay, so we're very close to doing that. We've stopped raising brood trout at Berlin, so we're not going to have the brood trout and collect eggs at Berlin. All of our egg collection will be done at New Hampton. We've shut down the raceways that, in my mind, is off in the woods, out to the west of the hatchery house, maybe. The reason is that those raceways eventually dump into York Pond, York Pond is a contaminated waterway, and our goal was to make improvements so that as we go through the permitting process, our hope is that we will have a better opportunity to work with EPA to come up with a better discharge permit than what we got at the Powder Mill plant. So by doing this, we believe we're going to be able to raise the same number of fish for stocking. At Berlin, we'll raise the same number of fish that go out into the water for anglers. And we'll be able to maintain egg production solely at New Hampton. Traditionally, we were actually overproducing brook trout eggs at the New Hampton and Berlin facilities.
So to add to that, and I was going to talk about that in the next slide, but no, you're fine, thank you. Berlin is operating off its 2013 NIPTES permit, so the EPA is a little bit behind in its review process, but they are working on it. We met with them last fall. The things are in progress to have a new permit, part of what the director was talking about. So there are fish in the upper canal, but that's a different discharge that discharges into the west branch of the Upper Ammonoosuc River. The part that he was talking about that discharges directly into York Pond is the West Branch Raceways, and York Pond is identified as an impaired water body by DES's water quality standards. So just part of it looks at chlorophyll A, and those numbers are elevated in that particular water body. So as he said, in an effort to be moving forward in a positive direction, we are now no longer raising fish in those raceways. Those are completely empty. So just no more impact into York Pond, at least from our raceways. There are some natural things that occur in that upper watershed. So, okay.
Also, just to make sure all the commissioners understand that Berlin is an old federal hatchery that we took possession of back in, I think, the late 80s, or I'm sorry, early 80s. And it is on U.S. Forest Service land. So anytime we're doing any work over there, we have to go through a permitting process for U.S. Forest Service.
And in an effort to keep things, keep the conversations open, we have met with the Forest Service already. So this is the part that you have the paper for, your actual, your PowerPoint that was sent out by Tanya last week. This is a work in progress. We are, as I mentioned, HDR just got approved and awarded the contract last Wednesday through Governor and Council, or yeah. Anyway, they, so this is some modified phasing that we've agreed upon based on various changes and capacities that we have and that they've been working on through their analyses of their statewide data that they collected over the past 2 years at this point. Okay? And basically what that talks about is what the director just said, the phasing in that will reduce Powder Mill in 2025. That's our final value. That's our EPA mandate. 2025 at Powder Mill will be at 12 parts per billion. And then working on Berlin, we're going to make those reductions probably in the next year or two. Same thing, so that's based on the 2025 estimate. Right now, like he said, we're not mandated to do that. We're doing that on our own in an effort to just foreshadowing what our potential, what we may have to do to be compliant with the new value. So it all depends. We may end up being able to operate at the same, which would be awesome. But at this point, we're unsure. So we'll be waiting for EPA to let us know on that. And then the twin and the rest of the phases are what I was talking about, where it was modernized. Go ahead.
Quick question. On Powder Mill, once we're down to the 30,000 pounds, are we going to be able to continue doing that kind of indefinitely, or is that just till the end of kind of the situation we're in right now?
So the problem with Powder Mill, so all of our facilities, thank you for that question. All of our facilities are what are called flow-through facilities. So the director had mentioned that our cost for treatment to get us down to that 12 parts per billion was going to be $67 million because we had to treat every gallon that went through the hatchery. So it's thousands of gallons per day that we would have had to treat. We are not going to continue that, so that new RAS facility on the phase 2 there is for a recirculating aquaculture system, very different. So at Powder Mill, at this point, we don't have the funds to invest in a treatment. Because we're not guaranteed that we can get to that 12, investing in a new RAS system at that particular location wasn't pertinent. So at this point, until we know that we can definitely meet it, great, but we don't know that now. But because it's one of our best water sources, and it's one of our 3rd largest facilities in the state as far as stocking, and placement's really important because every water body that we stock, we like to have a distance certain with the trucks and whatnot, because the farther you have to go, the less fish you can put on the truck, even with oxygenation. So you're really looking at geography and stocking and management. But in Powder Mill's case, at this point, until we can do something different in an effort to maintain that 12, which we're mandated until something changes, it will stay at 30 pounds.
So I guess to clarify, by doing only 30,000 pounds of fish, we are going to meet that
We
requirement.
will meet the 12.
Okay.
So
That was my
we'll meet the current requirement of 12 parts per billion.
Mhm.
Does that mean in the future the EPA will come back in and say, now you're gonna meet 10 parts per billion? No, there's no guarantees in that, and that's the world of NEPDES permits. At 12 parts per billion, it should allow those impounded waterways to use up the phosphorus at a rate that eventually it will. We're actually right now, part of the agreement with EPA is to do a
Downstream.
downstream research as far as what's going on in those water bodies. I was talking with Chris the other day, that's almost completed, so that will be coming out shortly as far as, what's going on in those water bodies. The issue in those water bodies, phosphorus in flowing water tends not to, it moves with the water and it doesn't create an issue. It's when it stops moving that it creates an issue. And unfortunately, both New Hampton and Berlin have that issue, is we're discharging it into an impounded waterway. And
New Durham.
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you. New Durham and Berlin. The odd thing in New Durham is that it's an impounded waterway, so it's a brook that we've built dams on for habitat improvements. And so there is some flowing of water, but not very much. So it complicates how we can treat that to try to rectify the problem. If it was a pond that didn't have flow through it, didn't have a current in it, you could treat it with aluminum. We don't have that. We don't believe we have that option at this point. So it creates kind of a real issue on how to move forward with what's going on there. But that hopefully will be down the road and we'll come up with some issues. The other thing we got going on is DES has listed the dam at Mary Meeting Lake and 3 dams below the hatchery on the Mary Meeting River, which is the water we discharge into, as needing to be rebuilt or replaced or torn out. And part of why we're maintaining production, first of all, we need it obviously through construction. But then the other thing is when DES finally formalizes their plans and actually does the work they're going to do, there is a potential that we may have free-flowing water there, which may open up the door for us to go back to EPA on a new permit request. And we're just going to have to wait and see what that looks like when everything's all said and done. That'll be years down the road before, at least be after 26 before we actually know what DES is. We'll actually be able to have water flowing the way DES wants it to flow going into the future. So we have that. It may change our strategy there. And as Diane pointed out, we're first in the United States, first in the nation, not just in our presidential primary, but in our 12 part per billion NEPDES permit. So we're number 1. And it was kind of scary when we were interviewing the engineering firms And they were all excited to be involved in this project because this was, everybody in the nation and the world of hatcheries is looking at what New Hampshire's doing right now. But through time, and just so you understand, Diane, help me out, a discharge on like a human sewer system, a municipal sewer system, is into the hundreds of parts per billion. So we're really dealing with how you would treat water on the front side of a cannery, more so than like a municipal sewer system. So we're using different
And even a lake, I would add, that 12 parts per billion is a normal lake. It's not a lake with a hatchery below it, and then below the hatchery. So it's low.
Yeah, so this is a very hard target to hit, but hopefully, in the future, I would anticipate that there will be other hatcheries across the country that are going to see these types of low discharge permits going forward. There'll be technology changes which may lower the cost, which may come up with better ideas at a lower cost for water treatment. So part of my reasoning to keep the hatchery open is it's a lot easier to continue with a permit than it is to start over with no permit. And I think because of the quality of the water there, we want to keep this hatchery open and be as flexible as we can in the future.
Yeah, and especially if it changes from an impounded waterway to a riverine system, that's very different.
Diane, how much money do we have tied up in legal fees on Powder Mill?
I don't know the answer to that.
You know, Director, how much money we have tied up on that, on legal
Mr.
fees?
Chairman, do you want questions at this point?
No, not, hold your questions till the end, John.
Okay.
Okay, so next slide. So recirculating aquaculture systems, what you guys have in front of you is the just the written paragraph, not bullets. Here, I'll give the bullets and explain it, but just wanted to provide you with that written as well. So recirculating aquaculture systems, key part recirculating. So instead of taking the thousands of gallons a day and just flowing it through the system and having it go down and discharge into a waterway, you're now recirculating. And what we're looking at here, what HDR Engineering recommends, is a 95% RAS system. So we would be recirculating 95% of our water. So instead of having to treat the thousands of gallons a day, it's a much, much smaller value. And also within that, and these are used everywhere across the country. If you talk to somebody, I will tell you, I actually sent all of my hatchery staff to locations in Maine and Vermont, and actually a couple of them from the New Hampton facility are going to go look at one in Connecticut because it's one that's very similar to what we're looking at designing. And so just to familiarize the folks with, it's a very different system. It's much more efficient, as I mentioned. It has just a huge opportunity to treat. So your filtration happens at the individual tank level, and then as well as you can shut valves on and off in the particular pods. So instead of, again, having a raceway that then serials into another raceway, into another one, if something happens at the top of our facilities right now, we have no mechanism to prevent something happening all the way through the entire system. So this is a much better operative efficiency and just mechanism in place, and the treatment is huge for water quality. So it's just going to be milestones different than where we're at currently, which we're very excited about. It also gives us a much easier opportunity to treat. So if we do have something that comes through, and it does happen, we can treat individual tanks instead of, again, having to run through that whole gamut. So again, a money savings as well with the treatment, because you're only treating those that are infected or impacted. And so the other part is looking at water quality parameters. So again, you can add oxygenation. This particular design has also UV opportunity, which again prevents bacteria going into the system. We have UV at Powder Mill, but because of the thousands of gallons per day, the system is actually inadequate. And so we have not used UV there because it was not effective due to the quantity of water that we're sending through right now. So again, just much different, allows you to have that incoming. We'll go next slide and then, so we can talk about it. So just giving you the idea, so each of these, I wish I had a thing. On each circle you can, so this is the office space, and then each circular tank, I don't know if you folks can see it in the back and I apologize, but the smaller little blips off each circle is actually radial separators. Those are, again, additional filters per each tank. They help separate out the solids, as well as the tanks themselves are angled down in a slight conical fashion. So your solids settle down to the bottom, get sucked out, and then those split into two pipes. Your good water stays at the top and then gets reused into the next one, again, going through a filtration system within each pod before getting there, and then as you get to the bottom, it recirculates back up and goes through drum filters. Next slide, please. So I know hard to see, but you can kind of get the general layout. So your water's coming in, again, you can't read that, that's 600, right? So roughly 700 gallons versus the thousands of gallons that we use now. And it gets recirculated, that part's, and it goes through massive filtration systems, then goes into each facility, each tanks, at each particular building, goes through the UV, again, additional filtration, comes down through, we can treat it with oxygen, we can treat it with anything that we need to if we need to do that, and then your solids separate out to the bottom. You have some water that comes down in to help with dilution at the bottom. Any of that water you're not using, like I said, we're recirculating most of it. So your clean water comes down through, it goes through a clarifier. Solids tank is created so that you can, again, have your solids go out. And on most occasions at our facilities now, we do land applications. We do have contracts with farmers to utilize the effluent, the solids discharge that we have. It's great for gardening. And then it goes down through, and then your slight amount of discharge that comes out through the facility is then discharged into Dickerman Brook like it is currently. None of our discharges will change, so just want to make that clear to folks that the discharges, obviously our flow is going to be much better, but as far as the actual EPA NIPD's permitting, none of that is going to change despite the fact that there'll be an increase in the production value because of all this filtration that's going to be part of the design. Next slide. So conceptual layout, this is again just concepts. I mean, literally discussions, what do you guys think? Here's what we're sort of thinking, this is what we need. So just as a education at New Hampton, we currently operate all of our brown trout for the state. They are, brood fish are there, so eggs get taken, and they actually have a lighthouse program that enables them to take those fish earlier, so they actually spawn earlier. They're in a closed building with lighting that's on timers, so they actually spawn instead of in the fall like traditional salmonids, they actually spawn early August, if not slightly end of July. So those fish are actually breeding way earlier so that they can then have eggs earlier, so that the timing for where we're at, so we can get the maximum growth on them before stocking. And so that facility will also be a part of this. That's not going to change, so we'll have that part of it maintained, as well as this facility will become the sole brood stock for brook trout as well. Right now they actually produce enough to be that, and with the changes at Berlin, it just made sense to go ahead and make that transition. So that will have that as well, and then you can see the early rearing and the spawning raceways. And then, so everybody will be enclosed, which again with the facilities helps us with predation. We can have a much better, our folks are actually really great at raising fish. We just have a lot of problems with predation. So unfortunately, just like anything else, if you create them, predators will come. And so this will enable us in a closed system to be able to prevent some of that. Next slide, sorry. It's in my brain. So this is the middle building, if you will. So again, a pavilion style closed. For, again, predation, this is where your RAS facility will start. So your recirculating starts at this particular period, and the reason it doesn't happen in the very beginning is because that's eggs and fry, and you can't, you know, they're really small, and in a RAS system that's not really beneficial. So this goes to the next grow out phase, which is our fingerlings, 3 to 6 inches, and then this facility will be, or this building will have the RAS and have enclosed raceways, and again, just like I had mentioned with the filtration and all that fun stuff, this will have it. And actually that little building off to the side is the RAS treatment building that will have the big drum filters and pumps, etc. Something that we don't currently have. All of our facilities are flow through, so we do not have any pumps that pump things back. So there is going to be some cost increase here, but then some, you know, hopefully some cost decreases in the treatment and the water testing part of it, because things are going to be that much better. Next slide. The grow-out facility, this is looking at some sort of greenhouse type facility versus an enclosed steel building. The enclosed steel building was ridiculously expensive, as everyone probably knows, with cost increases. So we're looking at either a greenhouse style or, you know, even a beam type. Yeah, the director says it better than I do on that stuff, I don't know. But, or this sort of tension fabric sprung out over the facility. And again, that's for, right now our facility's not covered in the entire raceway park. The circulars are covered, but again, they're old and we have long exhausted their life. So if we were to keep those, they would have needed to be replaced anyway. So this is, again, the truck will be able to drive down through. That makes it not to scale, but this is this building that will be large enough that trucks can drive down through and you can actually stock fish right. You can, pick up fish for stocking right through the center instead of having to do openings on the side. So much better facility, again, allowing the RAS system, so it will, you know, go from thousands of gallons to hundreds of gallons. Very different. Next slide. So I know this is small, but basically the long and short is the conceptual design. This is the probable construction costs. And again, opinions, you'll note that the contingency is really high, and the reason for that is this is the concept. Nobody knows what prices are going to be, and companies now are aiming much higher than probably reality, we hope anyway. But long and short, that price is $47,700,000 for that part. We have a couple other folks that are involved, Department of Public Works, and their portion is $500,000. And then, of course, the contract that we just got awarded and approved is the $7.253 million, and making the project somewhere in that 50+ range. So we're very excited. It seems like it's a lot of money. All of our facilities are outdated. The unfortunate part of HDR's feasibility study that was done a couple years and just finally finished the final report, that reporting their condition assessments basically said that none of our facilities have any aspect or feature that we should reuse, because they have long outdated their life. And so we are working on borrowed, concrete's old. We just had failures at New Hampton itself with the greenhouse structure. It was a $41,000 predator control project, and literally one storm with ice this spring, and it blew over, completely collapsed the system, and the problem was the concrete was weak and it failed. And so the bolts all pulled out, and so the entire greenhouse structure fell to the ground. So we're lucky nobody got hurt, including none of the fish, believe it or not. The way they all laid down, it was like dominoes. But again, it's a $41,000 project that unfortunately failed. So things are very expensive in the hatchery world, but again, this puts us in a much better position than where we currently are. And I will tell you, the staff is just ecstatic. I mean, they are excited to be a part of this, and you know, it's long warranted. Our facilities are over 100 years old. So they've been working under, unfortunately, some tough conditions for a while. So, and then next slide. Thank you.
Question on that, 150,000 pounds of fish is the planned volume, or is that the max capacity of that?
So that's the
station?
planned volume of this station where we are currently discharging. If we move the discharge out into the Pemmican-Jawasset River, we should be able to increase that to what, 250?
Up to 250.
Up to 250.
Yeah.
But the problem is that it'll take us over 2 years to get the new discharge permit to move it from, I apologize,
Dickerman Brook.
Dickerman Brook to the Pemmican River. But in the long run, yes, that would be a good idea.
The physical infrastructure of that new RAS system, if discharge isn't a limiting factor, is 250,000 pounds of fish a year.
Yeah. Yeah, so they design it for the up to maximum with our current permitting because we, our ARPA funds are locked into the 2026 timeline. And we also need time to make sure that we know how to operate what they're building. And so we definitely need that to be done before December of 26. And the EPA NIPD's permit the permitting system with going to the PEMI would require some additional studies, new discharge request, and EPA's review. So at this point in time, it just makes sense to work within our parameters, and they feel that we can maintain the current values. Even though we don't, New Hampton is under a general permit, there are no restrictions into Dickerman Brook. And so, but we want to, in good faith, don't want anything to change. So we're maintaining the values that we're currently at. Yeah. So the timeline for the construction, you'll note here, very tight. Anybody who knows the state system, they look at this and they look like a cartoon from, you know, the 80s where the eyes go bug-eyed. This is really tight. It is absolutely tight, but we think we can do it. HDR is excited. And they're already moving forward, and like I mentioned, they are done with the feasibility study portion and now jumping right into this. And so we're hopeful that we'll get some folks that are interested in being a construction manager and put in some bids for this particular project, and then again looking at having those values somewhere in the May timeline, and then be able to finalize things. The deal with this particular project is we are doing what's called a construction manager at risk. So instead of just doing your typical design, sending that out to various folks, having them talk back and forth after the design's all done, then having your contractor bid on it, this is actually going to be simultaneous. So the designing and the construction manager will be able to talk hand in hand. And so that at the outcome, we're hoping this saves us values that based on other folks. This is not my forte, so just go with it. But anyway, they...
So for example, some of you may have noticed that the Department of Transportation had a design for a bridge down on the seacoast at about $40 million. And I believe the one and only bid came back at $80 million. So by doing this, we've got a couple of issues here that we're facing. One is the Gopher rules that we have to have all money obligated by December of '24, and then all money spent by December of '26. By doing this, we will have, and that's the federal rules on Gopher. Sitting down and discussing with the governor's office, his concern is that if we can't deliver, he wants us to jettison this project so that he will have time to reallocate that money someplace else in New Hampshire. So by doing this, we should know basically in May whether or not if we're going to be able to deliver this project, because we're going to have a contract manager approach. So that's number one. Number two is the discussion that Diane's talking about between the designer and the person that's going to be responsible for building. That allows much more discussion. It's a lot more like how private businesses end up building projects. Like, you know, when I'm sitting there designing something at the farm to build, working with an engineer on the building, my engineer's talking to my contractor, talking to the owner, decisions are made, changes are made, and you end up with a more efficient project that'll come on, hopefully will come under budget. The last goodie of doing it this way, some of you have probably heard that right now we have supply issues in the world of construction. This will allow the contract, and you think about this, I mean, that's for the normal stuff in construction. We're gonna have some real specialized pumps, tanks, motors, all kinds of stuff that's pretty specialized to the world of hatcheries. So this will allow us to pre-order the parts that we think will be pinch points in the construction or delay the construction in the future. So we'll be able to pre-order some of that prior to actually starting construction. So for those three reasons, that's why, and Public Works is the, they suggested that methodology to us and we agreed with it and we presented that to the governor. And that's another point, any contract over $500,000 is for fishing game, we have a higher limit. I think there's two agencies that have a $500,000 limit. Anything over $500,000, we have to use Public Works as the manager. So we don't manage those projects, Public Works does.
Yeah, and just as an example, as I was mentioning, you know, post and beam versus the fabric versus a greenhouse, you know, the construction manager can come in and say, hey, you can do this with, you know, this type of fabric much cheaper and it's really great, you know, da-da-da. And so you can have that as an offer and be building that into the design. So your cost savings for your construction manager work out in the estimate. That's what has been the experience in the past. So it's a cost savings that, and you get a much better project at the end.
Diane, could I ask a question there?
Sure.
I think what you indicated, or has been indicated, the construction manager will be selected by DPW?
It'll go through the bid process, and then so we'll be a part of that review as well. We're on that
So I want to
review.
make sure we're on
Yeah.
that selection
Yes,
committee.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And I think that was it, so, right. Oh, just something to mention, sorry, yeah, you shut it up. Just, you'll note here, there's some changes, obviously, and during construction, as I mentioned, that's lower station, so B and C station, where we normally have our grow out. During construction, we'll obviously do our stocking, this is what we're crossing fingers. We'll do our stocking and then be able to have those raceways empty. Obviously, during construction, those raceways are not going to be there, and so our production at the other facilities will stay the same. And if we can increase in any way, then we'll move those fish to those other facilities for grow out. But there is going to be some adjustment period in stocking until we're done. So just in full disclosure here, there obviously are things that we're going to do our best to maintain, but there is going to be some shortages most likely during construction just because I don't have any other place to put the fish. So.
The other issue that it's going to bring up is that, and we've already started having discussions between law and inland fisheries, is timeliness of stocking. One of the problems with this is we're going to probably be hauling fish a little further. So it's gonna make a schedule a lot tighter on getting the fish to water. So we're gonna have some bumps along the way, guys. There's no doubt about that. But we think we can manage it. We think we will try to minimize any shortages of fish as best we can. We'll try to keep those shortages as for as short as period of time as possible. We also know on the flip side, once we get this new plant up and running, there's going to be some bugs. We're going to have some issues. So it is what it is, and I think we're trying to put together a good team to work on it. We're still short a hatchery superintendent, and we're also short. The department still hasn't been able to hire a engineer for facilities and lands. We have filled the foreman slot in facilities and lands. And we hired a gentleman, may not look it on the face of stuff, he comes out of the food industry, So he has a lot of experience, not necessarily managing a hatchery and not maintaining a hatchery, but he does have a lot of experience in the same type of skills that people that are gonna be managing and working on a RAS system will need. So we are keeping an eye on that as we do our new hires.
Question. On a RAS system, on the filtration part of that, does that create a lot of waste? And if so, is that waste going to be considered contaminated?
No, so basically, how it works is, so that's all part of the, so no, because that waste is then filtered down through, and then there's settling ponds or tanks. There's also, in some cases, they have exposure, so the sunlight dries it out. So there's always waste. It's no different than what we currently have, except better. It's more solid, so like your solids, instead of having them run into the brook, which is what some of the situations that happen now, you would be able to take those out and have them be either sun-dried and then land applied, or you'll be able to take them away wherever we normally do it.
So the solids won't be considered hazardous?
No, no.
Any other further questions?
Phosphorus is actually one of the three major nutrients in commercial fertilizer. And right, this spring it was selling for a little over $800 a ton. So it is something that is utilized quite a bit, so.
Will that be a revenue generator for the department?
Probably not.
I think that unfortunately, the way things are written, we can't maximize on that.
John, you had a question, and I know you worked on a lot of the hatcheries. You used to work at Fish and Game and create the hatcheries.
But this is nothing new. All this here, we had the same problem 15 years ago, and we decided to do nothing. But then later on, we decided to start working on the hatcheries and fixing all the raceways. And when they start shutting water off in these raceways, it comes winter, and there's no water in there to protect the walls or anything, you're gonna have what happened in Powder Mill to Salmon. All the walls started caving in, pieces started falling off the raceways. So when you start taking water away from that concrete, you're looking for a lot of trouble. And what I'm wondering is how much have we paid so far at Powder Mill for legal fees and the problem we have with dumping the waste into the brook? I know it's a major problem. You go down there and talk to the folks down there, which I have been, and that's a major problem down there.
And John, that's a great point, and just for the record, so the facility at Powder Mill where the fish are gonna be raised, it will take away from the two areas of raceways, but we will maintain water at this point because of that exact reason, just to maintain water running through the system. We just won't have fishing. So, and I don't know the answer to it.
As you're aware, John, the Attorney General represents Fish and Game, so that's actually not, I don't get a bill for the Attorney General's office. I represent the department. So that, you'd have to ask the Attorney General how much money gets spent on it.
So you're telling me that we haven't got a bill for $225,000
For what?
for legal fees?
No.
Okay.
Referring to the settlement, perhaps? Yeah, Constitutional Law Foundation.
Are you referring to the settlement that will have to do with CLF?
No, I'm referring to legal fees.
Yeah, as I said, the legal fees are handled by the Attorney General's office.
Okay, any more questions of Diane or the director on this project? Thank you, ma'am. You put the lights on. A minute?
He's got ball on it.
Well, wait a minute.
I'm moving as slow as you are.
Okay, we'll go on to the committee structure, legislative committee. Commissioner Price.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our committee met this morning with our full complement of 5 members. I appreciate the staff being into their lunchtime. We did run a little late, and thank you for your patience. The first bill to be voted on, I'd like to make a motion to support HB 1002. second.
Title.
Title of the bill, relative to fees for records under the right to know law.
Susan, if I may, in your packets, you do have a summary sheet that Marty put together for all of us. It looks like this. If you went at the committee meeting earlier, and Susan's gonna go right down there.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay.
It's stapled to the sheet that says legislation.
Thank you.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's like- Everybody have the spreadsheet? Have the spreadsheet?
Just looking at your ring.
Bruce, do you have yours? The committee supported 5-0 House Bill 1002. The motion on the floor in a second to support the committee's vote. Any discussion?
No, let's just move here.
Are you going to call the vote?
Excuse me?
Are you going to call the vote on the full committee, or do you want me to call the vote?
You're running the
On
show.
the commission, the full commission. Okay.
All right.
Just
You want me
before
to
you-
want me to run it? I'll run it. No
If
problem.
you want to call on the full commission, that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. House Bill
1002.
1002. Been moved to support. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Stands approved.
Thank you.
We pulled, okay.
Oh, no.
House Bill 1100, relative to coyote hunting. Motion was to 5-0 to oppose. Do I hear a motion to oppose?
Motion to oppose.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of opposing House Bill 1100, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, stands, position stands opposed to House Bill 1100. Move on to House Bill 1424, relative to pistols permitted for taking game. The committee recommends opposing this bill. Do I hear a motion to oppose this bill?
Motion to oppose.
I second.
Okay. Any further discussion on House Bill 1424? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1424, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Chairman Price, could you and the clerk motion and second the position of your committee as I read it?
Yes,
Maybe that'll be
that
cool.
was my original intent,
That's what
but
you
you
were
got
trying to
going, so I was like, go ahead.
I apologize.
That's all right.
House Bill 1116, relative to certain firearms to be used for the taking of game.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 116.
And I'll second that.
Been moved to oppose House Bill 116. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Our position is to oppose 1116. House Bill 1143, including control of something bacteria blooms under New Hampshire Clear Lake program.
Cyanobacteria.
What is it?
Cyanobacteria.
That one there, yeah. Commissioner Price, you have a motion?
I make a motion to oppose
I'll
House
second
Bill
that.
1143.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1143, and I ain't gonna go into that bacteria again. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Stands approved. We're opposed to House Bill 1143. House Bill 1148, relative to the Fish and Game Commission.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1148.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1148. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 148, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that we opposed House Bill 1148. House Bill 1515. We removed that from, that's right,
Yeah,
okay.
that's removed.
CACR 15. Commissioner Price.
I make a motion to oppose CACR 15 relating to taxation.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to oppose CACR 15. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose CACR 15. House Bill 1558. Commissioner Price.
I make a motion to support HB 1304 relative to vessel registration.
No, House Bill 1558.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait.
You skipped one.
You skipped one.
I skipped one?
Yeah, we went out of order there for a minute.
Yeah.
So we had 1304.
I think you're operating from a different
I'm
sheet.
on the wrong sheet.
That's okay.
I apologize.
That's okay. No, it's attached to your legislation.
The parties will send out a corrected link after our meeting this morning.
Yeah.
After our meeting this morning?
There was a fresh package from everybody.
Oh, I didn't get it.
I didn't get a fresh package.
All right, see if I can get on the right one here.
That's okay.
No, you brought it in.
Okay, House Bill 1304. Is that the one we're supposed to be on?
Yes,
Okay, Commissioner Price.
I make a motion to support House Bill 1304 relative to vessel registration and boat decal fees.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to support House Bill 1304. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We support House Bill 1304. House Bill 1558.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1558 relative to agent fees for fish and game licenses.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1558. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1558, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We stand opposed to House Bill 1558. House Bill 1024.
Making a motion to oppose House Bill 1024 relative to the use of air rifles for hunting game.
And I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1024. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1024, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We stand opposed to House Bill 1024. House Bill 1026.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1026 relative to resisting arrest.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1026. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1026, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is opposed to 1026, House Bill 1026. House Bill 1029.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1029 relative to exempting certain persons from requiring a New Hampshire landing license if such persons are not landing for the purpose of the sale of the lobster or crab they have caught. Can I breathe now?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1029. Is there any further discussion on that? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1029. House Bill 1069.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1069 relative to material subject to disclosure following a public meeting under the right to know law.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1089. Is there any? 1069.
1069.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1069, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1069. House Bill 1417.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1417 relative to wild trout management.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1417. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1417, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1417. House Bill 1420.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1420 relative to communications between agencies and citizens.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1420. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, stand approved. And we oppose House Bill 1420. That's 14 what? 1320?
That was the wrong number.
Okay, House Bill 1325.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1325 relative to allowing private ownership of small-tailed monkeys, raccoons, foxes, otter skunks, and kangaroos.
I'll second it.
1332. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's been moved to oppose House Bill 1325. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1325, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, what's the next one?
1532. That's wrong. It's 1532.
1532?
Yes.
House Bill 1532.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1532 relative to landowner rights and responsibilities pertaining to game cameras and tree stands.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1532. Any further discussion?
You'd have
Vote.
a discussion.
Could we get a brief update on that, what the opposition is on that? I can read what I see here, but.
Well, the law has not yet in effect. We haven't seen how it will work. We worked with the landowners on this. We're not going to have support from landowners with these changes. So, and I've asked the Colonel to add anything to that as well.
So the changes that are being sought after now would purposely, when we crafted that original legislation, we stayed away from requiring sportsmen and women to get written landowner permission for cameras. We thought it'd be easier if they got permission. We thought it'd be difficult to get written, so we did that purposely. This bill is to amend that, to require that, which would mean that all landowners would have to be located and they would have to document that they've given you permission to put a camera on their land. The other change is a change to the dates of when tree stands can be removed, put up and removed, and that was a very sensitive piece of the original legislation because it was one of the driving factors for bringing it, because landowners wanted to do tree harvest in the wintertime, and these stands were being left, and this proposed change would allow them to be left again, so it kind of defeats the purpose. And then the final change is a bit aggressive towards law enforcement, I think, where they're requiring us to get written landowner permission to put it before we could deploy a camera during an investigation. And that would be problematic for us for a whole host of reasons. A lot of times it's the landowner that we're making the case on, so it would be kind of counterproductive to go there and ask permission. So none of these changes were asked for by landowners. We had many debates, as you remember, many hearings. Everybody was happy with the previous one, and my final argument is it hasn't even gone into effect yet. I'd like to see it go into effect and go through one season and then come in and address issues. So we're opposing it for those reasons.
And just to add to that, the sportsmen actually, who largely place the game cams in the tree stand, like the idea that only permission was required, put your name on the camera in the tree stand, and because a lot of these landowners are out of state. So it was actually, this would be unbeneficial to people placing the cameras and tree stands because they would have to chase down the landowner and get written permission.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion on the floor is to oppose.
To oppose 1532. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1532. House Bill 1530.
Make a motion to oppose House Bill 1530 relative to requiring fish and game officers to wear body cameras.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1530. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1530. House Bill 1121.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1121 relative to creating certain wetlands permits exemptions after a natural disaster or flooding event.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1121. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1121, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1121. House Bill 1527.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1527 relative to criminal trespass.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1527. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1527. House Bill 1521.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1521 relative to requiring agencies to respond to issues raised by the public during the rulemaking process.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1521. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1521, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1521. House Bill 1228.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1228 relative to establishing a fishing game guides committee to determine qualifications for licensure of fishing game guides.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1228. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1228, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1228. House Bill 1494.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1494 relative to OHRBs. 94.
Okay.
94.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1494. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Position is to oppose House Bill 1494. House Bill 1503.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1503 relative to the definition of wetlands.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1503. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1503, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1503. House Bill 1484.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1484 relative to current use taxation for certain forested lands.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1484. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing House Bill 1484, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose House Bill 1484. House Bill 1138.
I make a motion to support House Bill 1138, equalizing fines for operating on an OHRV with a driver's license suspended and operating a snowmobile with a driver's license suspended.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to support House Bill 1138. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of supporting House Bill 1138, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to support House Bill 1138. Senate Bill 336.
I make a motion to oppose Senate Bill 336 relative to misrepresentation by state employees.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose Senate Bill 336. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose Senate Bill 336. Senate Bill 542.
I make a motion to oppose Senate Bill 542 relative to appointments to the Fishing Game Commission.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose Senate Bill 542. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing Senate Bill 542, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to oppose Senate Bill 542. Senate Bill 503.
I I make a motion to support Senate Bill 503 relative to requiring a criminal background check when applying for a fishing game guide license.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to support Senate Bill 503. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to support Senate Bill 503, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposition is to support Senate Bill 503. Senate Bill 310.
I make a motion to support Senate Bill 310 relative to bear registration.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to support Senate Bill 310. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of supporting Senate Bill 310, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Our position is to support Senate Bill 310. Senate Bill 390.
I make a motion to oppose Senate Bill 39 relative to defining critical habitat.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to support Senate Bill 390. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all.
Basically,
No, the staff, we, remember, we,
Oh, that's
the
right.
only one we did not agree with staff on.
So we're opposed?
Yeah.
Yes.
The motion was to oppose Senate Bill 390. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to oppose Senate Bill 390, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Opposed. What's that? Oh, okay. Our position is to oppose Senate Bill 390. Senate Bill 533.
I make a motion to support Senate Bill 533. It's actually 544. That needs to be
You're
corrected.
skipping 533.
That was under monitor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got opposed.
No.
Yeah, you ended up making.
533 is quorum in public meeting.
Relative to fiscal, I'm sorry. My own notes screwed up. I'll start again. I make a motion to oppose Senate Bill 533.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to oppose Senate Bill 533. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing Senate Bill 533, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Our position is to oppose Senate Bill 533. Senate Bill 544.
I make a motion to support Senate Bill 544, replacing the deer seal system with a confirmation number system.
I'll second that.
So moved and seconded to support Senate Bill 544. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Our position is to support Senate Bill 544. Senate Bill 548.
I make a motion to oppose Senate Bill 548, removing gray squirrels from the definition of game animals.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to oppose Senate Bill 548. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opposing Senate Bill 548, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Our position is to oppose Senate Bill 548. Senate Bill 549.
We're just, the staff's monitoring that, we're not looking at that.
All right. House Bill 1697.
I make a motion to oppose House Bill 1697, suspending New Hampshire's participation in emissions reduction credit programs for a period of 2 years.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 1697. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Mr. Chair,
Our
may I just,
position is to oppose House Bill 1697.
I make a comment that we will likely have another legislative committee meeting between now and our January commission meeting, but it will not be, of course, during the holidays, so it will be most likely sometime after January 1st.
Is that your report?
That's my report.
I just want to let,
Oh, the rules.
before we get to rules, at lunchtime I went on the General Court website and that confidential filing bill we were hearing about has been filed for it to become public.
I think the way it's right now is done that
I would recommend you take this out today
Marty, what about the bills?
346, Senate bill.
No problem. I agree.
Okay, we have a late comer here. It's Senate Bill 346, which is prohibiting the use of dogs for hunting coyotes. Before we have any discussion, one way or the other, I gotta have a motion and a second.
I make a motion to oppose Senate Bill 346.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to oppose House Bill 346. Is there any discussion?
Dan, did you get a copy of the bill?
Yeah.
You would like us on your position, Dan? Thank you. Doesn't be much to it.
All I can see is this one. Oh, I see this.
Does the commission feel they need input from Wildlife Division? I want Senate bill. AJ, you got something?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd like to say is, I mean, people have been running dogs on this land longer than most of us have been here. And us restricting something just because we feel we don't like it or it doesn't fit in our personal ethos is, I think, an attack on a minority of our constituents. I think it must go on. I will protect hounding as long as I'm on this commission.
Could I just comment? Very broad. So you can't bring a single dog? That's what it said. So this, I think this is way too broad, and sometimes you just have a dog alongside of these. Guys out west use dogs as decoys, so the dog's not actually chasing the guy. So it's just very broad, and I agree, there's a tradition. So I would oppose it.
Any further discussion on the bill?
I'd like to remind the commission that Dan gave, or Dan's team gave a report on coyotes. And in that report, the department made some recommendations as far as trying to gather more information on coyote take in the state of New Hampshire. And I think it would be premature for the department to support this bill right now until after we gather that information and start taking a look at it.
Commissioner Hodgson.
This is directed at law enforcement. I'm just wondering if there are any initial reactions from a law enforcement perspective on the language of this bill. What challenges would it present for your folks in the field or opportunities?
So it would require us to prove that a dog was actively on the hunt, which there are a lot of bills that require that now, so I don't see that being any more difficult for this one. They're all challenging, but we're doing it now for other species, so it probably wouldn't create any more. And I don't know that we have an actual handle on how many people are doing this. You know, personally, when I was in the field for 18 years, I knew of one group that did this. So I'm not sure if that's grown that's something that we would look to explore. But challenges, it wouldn't be any different probably than what we face now.
Yeah, it's very brief, but once you actually found the language, I think if nothing else, similarly to the other ones, the other county bill and the squirrel bill, I think we would oppose it because it removes the authority of the Fish and Game Department to set these regulations. So it's all or nothing. We kind of like to retain that, so again, we can either close or open or lengthen or shorten, but we tend to like to retain that. And I would also agree with what the director said in terms of, we are looking to require the take of any fur bearer species, some sort of reporting there, which would give us more numbers on times a year, number of people that are actually doing these things to have a better impact, or a better idea of what the impact of different methods are. So for those reasons, I would say we would say oppose this bill at this time.
I appreciate the director's input and Dan's input as well about additional data on fur bearer harvest. We've talked about it a couple of times, and I think Dan, in that presentation that your team did a couple of months ago, you said that more work would be done on that. Can we have some kind of commitment? Is that a commitment that there is more, that there will be data collection?
Yeah, we will absolutely be moving forward with rules that will put together a system to register these animals, all fur bearers harvested through hunting. Currently, that's already required for trapping, but we're looking to do that for hunting as well. So we will have a rule package to put forward on that.
Do you have a time frame?
Not a specific one. I mean, at the latest, I would say the next season setting process, which will be next year, at the end of this coming year, but it could be before that. But, we're coming up on the revision of our wildlife action plan, our big game management plan, fishery research. So we'll have some discussions, but I mean, at the latest, it would be the next biennial season setting for game species.
Stephanie, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I'm a stickler on dates, I think.
Yeah, I too.
You laughed at that. Did you see that?
No, I laughed.
So, if it's next biennial rulemaking or sooner, I would really appreciate that. So thank you.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 346? All in favor of the motion to oppose House Bill 346 as found, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed to the motion? Opposition is to oppose Senate Bill 346.
Now we have rule. We've already done.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you.
And did you capture what Dan said in the notes?
You're going to give an overview of the turkey youth hunting.
About dates?
Yes. So at the back of your packet, it looks like this legislation rules update. The very last page is the rules dealing with special youth hunting days for deer and turkey. You were presented these rules last month, and I need a vote on them for this month, because I think by statute it requires commission consultation.
All right, the rules, the various.
No, that's just,
This is only two? Okay, I'll hold my question. Okay, FIS 1204.02 and FIS 1204.03 deals with youth deer and turkey hunting. They expire in June, and they want to add a link to online tagging, add clarification language, update the citation. hearing is January 15th. 19th. That's bold too, and I still mess it up. Entertain a motion to
I'll make a motion to concur with FIS 1204.
Readopt.
I'll second.
The motion is to readopt, right, Marty?
Yes, sir. With amendments.
Readopt with updates.
That is January 19th.
Yes.
Any further discussion on the motion? Signify by saying aye if you approve of the motion.
Aye.
That went backwards on that one, didn't it? Those opposed? We do support readoption of FIS 1204.02 and 1204.03. Any more on rules?
I think that's it.
The other rules are just for next month, you'll need to vote on that.
Yeah, those require commission approval. There will be FIS 300 and FIS 110207. So.
I thought I read somewhere.
They said, it says on here December approval, but that got kicked because of jail card?
No, for me, it means you present it, I'm presenting it in December for y'all's approval. And then next month, it'll be under action.
Okay. All right, thank you.
That's for my timeline, just to keep me straight.
Commissioner Price or Marty, one of you. I thought I read somewhere on the tennis safety rules that we tweaked. Remember the caliber of weapon that they use during the training? Did I read that it's just saying 22 now? It's not saying 22 or larger? Is that?
I don't have those
about
rules
that.
with me.
What is that?
I don't have those rules with me.
No, I think that's that email that I
Yes.
sent you.
Yes, we changed it to just 22 because if it's larger than 22, it's not a rimfire rifle.
So there was,
I didn't know rimfire rifle was in there.
It was 22, yeah, that was existing language, 22 caliber rimfire rifle.
Because it has laser and BB gun.
Yeah, and we removed the laser and BB guns. And then Commissioner Hutchton said that if it's larger than 22 caliber, that's not a rimfire rifle. I checked with our Hunter Ed folks, and they said, we only use 22 caliber rimfire rifle exclusively, that's all. So we changed.
The discussion.
Well, I know some safety classes that use something higher than 22 rimfire. That's my concern with the language.
The discussion we had in October's legislative committee meeting is in our minutes. So I thought I gave you a copy of our minutes from October where we discussed this.
Yeah, I think that's where I see that
well, I copied you on the email to Mark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I copied you.
Okay.
So the FIS that came out of Gelcar did have the edits that we spoke about, including the removal of air pistol or air guns unless in existence by, I think it was January 2024. And then I caught that it was just like a grammar mix-up that was implying something that didn't exist. And so then that change was made, but it was recommended to change to only 22 caliber rimfire.
And those rules are going to be on consent at Gelcar Thursday.
Yeah.
Yep, I found out this morning, so.
Okay, Commissioner Price, are we done with you?
I hope so. I'm very thirsty.
Governance Committee, Commissioner Caven.
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Sustainability and Strategic Planning, Commissioner Hodgson.
Thank you. I'm passing out a document for your review. Yes. Yep. Okay. Since the last commission meeting, the Strategic Planning and Sustainability Committee met to finalize a draft of the focus areas document for our strategic plan. I've got that for you. It's the document I sent out in advance for your review. I just want to thank the commissioners who are on the committee. We spent many hours going through this, meeting with division chiefs, meeting with individual commissioners to solicit feedback, and it was, I think, a very good conversation that resulted in a better draft focus document for everyone's review. So to remind you how this fits into our strategic planning process, I encourage everyone to think of these 8 focus areas as what the department needs to be focused on during the next 5 years to accomplish its mission. The next step in the planning process is to actually draft a plan for your consideration, the plan being a document that articulates more of the how. This is more of the what, and the two really should weave together if the planning process is done correctly in a way that explains both what you want to accomplish as an organization and how you want to do it. But we take these as steps along the way, and this step is to articulate what the commission sees as the major areas that the department should focus on in the coming years. So I'm hopeful that we can adopt this today so that we can move on to the next step in the process. And I'm happy to go through it, either one by one or answer questions that you may have. Really, it's up to the commission how you all want to do it.
Well, I think it's a hell of a good working template, and it did a lot of work, the committee did a lot of work, and I suggest that the commission accept it as submitted.
May I just be recognized for a comment?
Excuse me?
May I be recognized for a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Commissioner DeRosa called me, seeking my input, and I'm glad to see that the funding was brought up to number 2. I actually pulled a 2018 report on funding for the Fish and Game Department. And I believe a couple people in the room, staff level, were on that committee, had input. We're still dealing with, that was 2018, we're still a little further down the line in solving what is, to me, a very distressing funding problem. And in our committee meeting earlier today, I used the term unfunded mandate several times, and that is, I feel like as big a threat as not getting money is being asked to do more without money. And I think as a commission, when we're dealing with the legislature, we need to really press this issue. If you'd like us to do these things, we need money. And instead of just saying, well, we'll do the best we can. We could do a lot. We do things really well. We could do them fantastically if we just had more money. So thank you for the work.
Any further discussion? I'd entertain a motion to, I think the best thing to do is entertain a motion to accept the strategic plan focus areas.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept this December 23rd draft to become official strategic planning and sustainability committee strategic plan focus areas. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, stand approved. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Anything further?
No.
Eric, to clarify, because we just voted and accepted, it will be included in the minutes?
The plan?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I'll say.
definitely.
This will be included in the
You
minutes.
got a clean paper?
I have it electronically.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, resources and infrastructure, Commissioner Green.
We do not meet.
Okay, public engagement and education, Commissioner DeRosa.
Sure. We I worked on a second draft of the document that Susan had done most of the work for me, so thank you. We are going to be meeting as a committee to round out some parts because it's a lot more expanded. The goal focusing on more transparency to the public about how they engage with the commission, what the commission actually does, really to clarify it black and white, as well as take steps towards a greater effort of the committee to engage with the public actively, go to events, and even put kind of a working template in place about how do we present what we do as a commission going forward. So, that will be happening in January, so we'll have a better update then. Okay.
Can I just speak to the awards? I just want to let you all know for the 2023 awards, we've only received 2 nominations for all 7 awards, so we just want to let you know.
And when's the cutoff for that?
December 31st, midnight is the deadline.
Can we vote to make an extension into January 31st?
Why?
What are the 2 that have been submitted? Categories, not the people.
I can't recall off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Can we send out a reminder, and what do we have, another week?
It's on the website, I guess we just need to.
Yeah, I worry with the holidays, people, because I know the last time we did extend it, and we got a lot of stuff.
I don't think we've ever extended it, never.
Oh, I thought we extended it.
No, the deadline is the deadline is the deadline.
So where is that deadline, the deadline?
You all established it years ago, it's in the
December 31st.
handbook, I believe, so if you want to change it, I think you probably can. So, I mean, you can if you want it, I'm not saying you can't extend it, we just have never done it.
I don't disagree with Ray's assessment of people didn't, that's what I'm taking it, people didn't do it.
Right.
Then why, you know?
Yeah.
I would support a change in the deadline if there is a corresponding effort to engage, to get feedback before the deadline. Just arbitrarily pushing the deadline without any effort to engage isn't going to change the outcome, right?
Question. I'm sorry.
No, I'm overthinking.
I actually had a phone call. If AJ, if you were to receive an email or a note stating that a name would be coming forward with support, but you might not receive it, I'm told, the 10th of January, but you received that note in the month of December. Is that possible for consideration?
We had a similar incident last year where somebody submitted somebody and they wanted to supply more information, but they had already submitted the name. And then technically our committee is then going to do research on these people. So there's nothing wrong with somebody saying, I'm putting this name forward. And then yes, we would be following up at a later date for more information of why said name was put forward.
So submit the name by the deadline.
So big thing is we get the name, then we'll start doing research as a committee of why. So the why, there's follow-up to begin with, so we have to ask the why no matter what.
Well, there's an application, right?
It is.
This knockout application, and then support it in the future.
Yeah. And you can do it electronically.
And it can be free, again, when you look at the
Yes.
application
Yes.
itself, we're gonna research it no matter what. So if it's in, it's in, and then we're gonna follow up on it.
Thank you. I'll be sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, one last thing on that committee. I just want to recognize Commissioner Burrows. I thought he did a good job kicking off the awards this, this morning, earlier this meeting. And I really appreciate that everybody was together. I think in last year we spread it out a couple of times, so I really appreciate that you kept it together. And
That's,
well done.
Tanya deserves the scheduling award for the Fish and Game Commission, so.
Well done to all of you.
Okay, Seacoast report, Commissioner Stone.
Okay, on December 11th, there was a public hearing on the striped bass draft addendum 2. There was to receive public comment on these proposals within the addendum. A couple of the key items here was that there would seem to be a consensus that the fish limit would be limited to 1 a day at a size of 28 to 31 inches. And there would be a 14.5% reduction in the commercial quota for the taking of striped bass. that the comments period is still open until December 22nd, and there'll probably be a final ruling early on in 2024. Early in the year, there was House Bill 442, which brought up the point of abandoned or derelict lobster traps on the coast of New Hampshire. Eric Anderson from the New Hampshire Commercial Fishermen Association has taken it upon himself to produce a survey that he issued to all the licensed lobster fishers within the state to get an idea of their fishing effort and the actual losses they've sustained in gear over the last several years. Eric is assembling all that data now, and he should have a report as to what the actual impact is on derelict or abandoned gear in New Hampshire, probably early in the year for that. So, because I think a lot of the information that came out in the House hearings, I think a lot of the fishermen believe there was a lot of misrepresentation as to the actual amount of gear that's being abandoned or derelict in the state waters. So this should put an answer to what is actually happening out there.
Thank you. Lakes Management Advisory Committee, Commissioner Price.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll recall Commissioner DeRosa sat in for my presence, although he couldn't vote because he is not approved by the Governor and Executive Council, but I'll let him give us a brief overview.
Yeah, so the majority of the meeting was on the report that was done on cyanobacteria in the state. I think it's a great read for everybody. It's very extensive. It's like reading a novel with no major plot twist. I think the reality is, topic-wise, I think it's a very relevant topic for this department, and maybe worth us looking into it further. I don't know if it's getting somebody to present on what that report found, but nevertheless, it's something that affects anglers, something that affects hunting dogs. Hunting dog goes in the water during the training season with cyanobacteria, and your dog is dead. So, point being, it's a very dangerous thing that's affecting a lot of water bodies in our state. So definitely something I know that the committee is committing to being their major goal, so I'm sure Susan will have some more feedback coming on that as they progress down this road.
Okay, thank you. New Hampshire Rivers Management Advisory Committee, Commissioner Hodgson.
No meeting since we last met. It'll be in January.
Thank you. Search Committee, Commissioner Hodgson.
Okay. So we have assembled a search committee to start the search for the next executive director nominee to present to the governor according to the commission responsibilities outlined in RSA. I've been collecting information at this point in time. After the holidays, we will have a committee meeting where we will start to put together the process. We will have full transparency to the full commission all along the way. So any questions, please let me know. I don't know if you've shared as a full, the committee is. I'm leading the search committee. Also on that committee is Chairman Stoll, Commissioner Green, Commissioner Caveney, and Commissioner Hodgson.
Thank you. You're the chair?
Yes.
Thank you.
Present. Our commissioners who are not on it, are we allowed to attend and listen in on those things? Because I assume private information is going to be discussed on applicants.
At the beginning, yeah. You're having a meeting tonight, right after this?
Yeah, we have a non-meeting
Oh,
with
okay.
legal counsel. Yeah.
So, to clarify, we can or we can't as...
This first one is going to be a non-meeting with Attorney General Meyer.
Right.
What's that?
This first meeting is a non-meeting with our council.
Right.
With just the committee or the full commission, he's asking, I think.
Yeah, and I'm asking down the road if you schedule a meeting, even though obviously I would not be a voting member of the body and I want to sit in to be more informed. Am I allowed to do that, or is this
That topic is still
Okay, that's fine.
It's still being discussed.
I'm just expressing interest.
Sure,
And
sure.
so that is a thing.
And as usual, we're going to be as transparent as possible.
I understand.
We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for understanding.
No, totally, yeah, it's just obviously new to the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, old business. Anybody have any old business? Commissioner Caven.
Thank you, Chairman. With the assistance of Mark, I would just make a comment. He and I have had an exchange. I shared an email with you and I think with Megan regarding this discussion I brought up a couple of times in the last 12 months regarding Swansea Lake and water skiing slalom courses and the interaction with all water users, kayakers, paddleboarders, canoeists, fishermen, and everyone, and it's occurring on a very small lake, 106 acre lake. And like all of our public water in New Hampshire, it's getting tremendous pressure. I would just add, since we last met, there was an approval down there to expand a campground that already exists with additional opportunities for additional boats to be moored or tied up to docks. There are 2 summer camps on this 106 acre body of water. It's also the thing that triggered this discussion. This is just for quick review, is it's managed as a trout fishery. So it's considered to be a very good trout fishery. It has a smelt population, and there's just tremendous pressure. And maybe all the boats traveling over the trout don't bother the trout, but the boating traffic, if you saw it, there are people who would not go out there, especially in a kayak or a canoe. So, where we're at in the exchange that Mark and I have had, he has suggested that with the approval and the permission of the full commission, that we pen a letter to the Marine Patrol Board and engage the Lakes Committee and see if the Marine Patrol Board would sit down with Fish and Game and just have a discussion. Again, I made it clear to Mark in written word as well as verbally that I was not interested in creating a turf battle. I'm not interested in that. Okay, but this public body of water is in my face, in my county, and I have lived in that county for 45 plus years, and I've seen the pressures on that water just blow up. So, if in fact permits like this are going to be issued in the future, if it's on Winnipesaukee or Big Squam or Newfound or Winnisquam, there might not be much interest in anybody weighing in on that activity. If it's a 100 acre designated or managed trout fishery that has so much other development around it and the conflicting uses, again, water ski slalom courses, high-powered boats, people towing kids on floaties, canoeists, paddleboarders. Is there a way, is it time that we have a discussion about this process so that people might weigh in on it rather than rubber stamping a permit to just install an inflatable slalom course and one that deflates the debris? I call it debris. The course is always there. You may see it, or you may hook onto it as you troll by it because you can't see it. So, Mark, can I ask you please, what did I leave out that's important today for this discussion?
I can't think of anything you left out that's important today.
Thank you. Thank you. See, Eric always thought I was long-winded, so I guess I didn't leave it.
Well, Mark did develop some research
Yes.
Very extensive research.
Yes.
And it's the framework for a letter that I kind of gleaned from it that Mark was going to draft.
Yes.
Submit it to you for your approval, and then submit it to us.
Exactly. And with respect to everything that we all have going on, including Mark, if we can do this for the January meeting, do you think that's possible, Mark?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's my old business. Thank you for the opportunity.
Any other old business? Any new business?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't, I didn't catch it. The non-meeting today is strictly for the
Search.
selection committee,
The search committee, yeah.
and the rest of the commission will not be there.
This is a non-meeting with our attorneys. Yeah.
Non-meeting for the committee.
For the committee. Yeah, yeah. Any other new business? Director's report.
I'm going to give an abbreviated report. I apologize to the commission, but I have another meeting I have to get to. This month I was able to attend the New Hampshire Wildlife Federation Board of Directors meeting, at which point we were discussing last year's legislation and then what we were anticipating for this year's legislative issues. I would like to announce to the commission that the spring of '25 NEAFWA meeting will be held here in New Hampshire. I believe we're going to be at the Mount Washington. Law Division has requested that I remove 52,000, Kevin?
Yes.
52,000 from the Fish and Game Fund to rebuild the saltwater dock at the Coast Guard station in Newcastle?
Newcastle.
I just wanted to make the commission aware of that. If there were any issues with that, I would like to hear about it.
What fund does that come from? I'm sorry, what fund does that come from?
Fish and Game Fund.
Is that it?
Yeah, and if I could have Diane and Dee meet me outside, please.
Okay, I skipped over commissioners' report. Any commissioners will report their recent activities as it relates to Fish and Game Commission duties and responsibilities. Informational item only. Anybody have any reports they'd like to make? Seeing none? Call for the public. Anybody that wishes to speak in front of us, please come to the podium, announce your name and speak.
Are you recognizing me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Representative
I gotta
Powell.
put my glasses on to see you, you're looking at me, sorry. So, I haven't been here for a while, good to see all of you again. In case you've forgotten who I am, my name is Representative Catherine Harvey. I represent Cheshire District 6, which is Hinsdale, Westmoreland, and Chesterfield, and I serve as the Deputy Ranking Member on the Fish and Game Committee. Had an interesting morning listening to the debates about the bills that are upcoming. I was a little disappointed, no, I was a lot disappointed, that you decided to oppose House Bill 1148. I am the sponsor of that bill. I am, in listening to the debate this morning, I am certainly willing to remove the part that Commissioner Green found objectionable, which was the part concerning the posting of the nominees for Fish and Game Commissioners. That's not the part of the bill that I'm married to, so if that's helpful to the commissioners, I'm certainly willing to put in an amendment that would take that out of the bill. I understand his concerns that it's not the job of the commissioners to post that, so I appreciate that. I also today heard a lot, and many times, that this morning and this afternoon, the commissioners saying that it is the commissioner's job to set seasons and rules, and I firmly agree with that. It is your job. But I also know that there is constant criticism that a part of our New Hampshire citizens are not recognized on this commission when you set those seasons and those rules. And that part of our New Hampshire constituents are the non-consumptive users, like myself. This is not something that's going to go away. I urge this commission to think about this problem because it's going to come up again and again and again. There has to be a way to solve this. And I really felt that my bill went a long way in solving this dilemma, because all it does is it simply allows participating organizations to submit a name for a nomination, a name of nomination when there is a vacancy. It doesn't say they have to. It doesn't say that the governor has to appoint them. You don't have to have anybody that's considered a conservationist or a non-consumptive user or whatever you want to call that person. It just says these groups may present a name. It really goes a long way to bringing sides together, I think. This is the exact same bill that I submitted 2 years ago, and except I made it stronger for our hunters, fishers, and trappers. 2 years ago, you supported it. So I was a little surprised this morning because it is the exact same bill with one word difference. And Commissioner DeBoe brought this up at the testimony. It says, 2 years ago, it said participating organizations that support scientific conservation methods or hunting, fishing, and trapping could submit a nomination when there is a vacancy. Commissioner DeBoe brought it to the Fish and Game Committee's attention that left it open to organizations that might not be terribly sympathetic to hunting, fishing, and trapping. And he said at that time, and I think I'm going to quote you correctly, he said if I would be willing to change that or to an and, the Fish and Game Committee commissioners could support that bill. Just didn't work out because there were other amendments that came forward and it just kind of got lost. So when I resubmitted it 2 years later, I changed that or to an and. So it now reads participating organizations who support scientific conservation methods and hunting, fishing, and trapping may, not have to, may put in a nomination when there is a vacancy on the commissioners. It doesn't say, again, it doesn't say that they have to. It doesn't say that they have to be approved by the governor. It just said this is a process. And I think this process that I presented in this bill would really go a long way to offset the controversy between commissioners who don't represent those people who don't hunt and fish and trap, like myself. I'm here today, I guess, to say that if that part that Commissioner Green found objectionable is removed, and I'm certainly willing to do that. I know that you have another meeting before this will come before the House Fish and Game Committee. I'm asking if I remove that, if you would please do what you said you'd do 2 years ago and support my bill for all of the reasons that I said. This issue is not going to go away. And let's fix it now so that Representative Close and I don't have to listen to the same bill every 2 years. Come back. Let's fix it now. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Nat? Steve?
Steve Anger, Senator Conway. I was fortunate to be appointed by the governor to the Hatchery Advisory Committee, and it was super great news to see all the progress that's been made in updating our fish hatcheries. And as the angler and conservation member of the group, I can't stress to the commissioners enough how important an effective fish hatchery system is to take the target away from our wild trout. Trout Unlimited's done a lot of work with inland fisheries over the last couple of years, moving stocking away from known wild trout refuges, and it's been meeting with great success. But without having a hatchery program to move anglers away from wild trout into waters that don't sustain wild trout is very, very important to us being able to protect our wild trout. Thank you.
Matt? Yep.
Hi, my name is Christina Snyder. I'm from Chester, New Hampshire. And I wanted to say, first of all, I appreciate your opposition to the gray squirrel bill. I think that that's a really horrible bill, and I'm really glad that for once I'm on the same side as the commission. I think this is like a celebration moment right now. But on the other side of that coin, I want to also say that, you know, I hear a lot when it comes to discussion of these bills about tradition. And if you just think about the word tradition, it's not something that's based in science. It's based in emotion. And you can even look at different states. And what is acceptable in some states would be completely unacceptable in New Hampshire, but they argue that that's their tradition. So, you know, you could gauge the public and do a survey out to every person that lives in New Hampshire and ask them what they think about coyote hunting. And that statistic would predominantly show that the majority of the public is against using hounds on wildlife. Now that's a scientific little piece of information. That's an actual statistic. Tradition, we can go back through history of what used to be a tradition. You know, they used to do turkey roundups, turkey shoots. They used to go into the woods, surround a tree, and blow the turkeys out of the trees without any limits, and that was what they did. That was a tradition. They got together, they drank some beers, and they went around and did that. Now, we would see that and be appalled at that. That would be completely unacceptable. And so, things progress through culture, things progress through society, things change. What was acceptable 100, 200 years ago, it becomes increasingly unacceptable as society moves forward and progresses. So I understand that sometimes it's people's pastimes, and it's what they do, it's what they enjoy. But you have to look at the overall picture. And another aspect about talking about the commission bill is all of these bills were either opposed or supported. And I didn't hear any commissioner really, there was no debate. There was no one here that said, actually, I kind of like that bill, I kind of might support it, I might oppose it. And to me, when all of you are just like one voice, one mouth, saying the same thing, to me that's actual proof that we need to change the commission, because that's not truly representative of everybody that lives in New Hampshire. If everybody's just voting the same way over and over again. How is there any difference between you and you and you and you? I don't see it. That's proof we need to change here. We need something. We need a different outlook, a different perspective. That's not a lot to ask. And maybe one or two people with a different perspective. You would still have the predominant majority vote, but at least we could have some healthy discussion. So I really would like you to consider what Representative Harvey said and reconsider her bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric, Christina, I don't know if you knew we had a legislative committee meeting before this, and we spent 2 hours and 40 minutes going through all that, and there was a lot of discussion. So.
But I mean, I'm talking about now the members that are not on that legislative committee. No one had any input into what the legislative committee decided. They just were in agreement with it. That's what it appeared to me.
And that's fair. I just wanted to make sure that you knew there was a step before.
And what I mostly heard was 5-0, 5-0, 5-0, 5-0.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Tyson Morrow from Yellington.
I'm the sportsman's representative on the Governor's Commission for the Humane Treatment of Animals, appointed by the governor. And I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work with your positions on these bills. In our most recent meeting, we had 17 bills we were reviewing to potentially take a position on. And you had 38 bills you covered today. There was overlap of one, but my role in that position is to not focus on anything wildlife related, so there may not be overlap, but in some cases there is. So I'd like to thank your hard work on taking positions on all those bills to help set a stance for where I move forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next. Going once, going twice. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Paula Tracy, in Deptford, New Hampshire, and I have over the years covered you first from 25 years at the Union Leader, a little bit of time at WMUR, now I'm in Deptford, New Hampshire. And I just wanted to say hi, and we're here to report you, and I have a North Country representative who's in waiting, who's going to hopefully help us with and her name is Martha Wells. She lives in Colebrook. Am I right? Colebrook?
Pittsburgh, close enough.
Okay, but she's going to help us try to cover you guys more.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Diane.
So just wanted to let everyone know that unfortunately my cold water biologist out of the Region 1 office is going back to South Carolina. So I'm letting folks know that Colby Dennison will be returning. We are posting that position, but it means something to you because we were in the process of working on the management plan, the trout management plan, and obviously that is going to set us back a little bit. So just wanted to let folks know.
And in about less than 3 hours, we'll be right back in this room for biennial hearing, which is going to be tonight at 6 o'clock right here. Yeah.
Linda Diane, New Hampshire. I just wanted to say something about what Christina said. I agree with Christina about the legislative committee. It was one voice. I was here for the meeting, the legislative committee meeting, and I saw the one voice. There was no input from the public. I don't know how you commit positions on bills when you don't have any input from the public. You're just all hunters, fishermen, and trappers, and you have one opinion and one voice. And AJ, you're very disappointing because you talk about people always hounding. Well, hounding, when Native Americans did it, I'm sure they didn't wantonly waste the animal that they killed. I'm not asking you a question. But that's what happens today with coyote hounding. They kill the coyote, they leave it there. It's just for fun. I'm sure Native Americans, the tradition was to use the animal. So maybe you will reconsider the coyote hounding ban? I guess that's it. And it's great that Tracy's going to be here and Deb. You know, I hope we can get Laura us here so she can hear our side of the story instead of you all being one place.
Linda, the legislative committee meeting this morning was a work session for the commission. The public has a right to come and listen. It's open to the public, but it's a work session just for the commission.
It would be nice if you could change that, because you don't hear why the bills were put in. You don't hear any of that, because you don't engage the public.
Well, we follow the same protocol pretty much that the House and Senate does. That's how they run, and other commissions. We run by work sessions of committees and subcommittees, and then it's brought to the full committee. And that's not just a fish and game, that's with Representative Harvey's in the House and in the Senate. That's how the Senate's run. So we're not doing anything differently than other political organizations in the state.
No, you are. No. At the legislative committee meeting, you did not listen to the public. The legislator, when we go to for our bills to be heard, they listen to the public.
Okay.
I don't understand what else needs.
Catherine?
So I knew the answer to my question this morning, but I did ask if there was going to be public comment, and she said no, and I totally agree. It was handled correctly. There is no statute that says any meeting has to have public comment. It's always up to the chair of the committee. And I knew the answer to my question, but I thought I would ask anyway. I wasn't upset when you said no. And you're exactly right. It's the way it's done in the state house too. When we have our executive meetings, we don't invite the public to speak. So I just wanted to clarify that because there may be some misunderstanding here. When I asked that question, I understood that I was asking a question that was going to be answered negatively, was not upset about it because it was the right thing to do. And I just want the commission to know that I did not feel slighted this morning in any way, shape, or form.
I don't think anybody thought you
Thank you,
felt
Catherine, especially coming from a former chairman of the House Fish and Game Committee.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So my name is Julia Sinclair, and I'm from Newmarket, New Hampshire. So I just wanted to comment on all this talk that's going on. Even though it is, everybody's going by the rules for not taking public comment at certain times in certain places, I think the spirit of that is to, when you make decisions regularly, like let's say there's only X number of people in that committee, when there's thought being put into it, think about all of New Hampshire, not just the people that fish, not just the people that hunt, but like what are your communities wanting overall? Because sometimes it's not fishing or hunting or trapping. You know, sometimes they do want to go kayaking and boating. Sometimes they want to do other things that should be taken into consideration. And that's true with not just the boating thing, but with not always doing things just because it's the tradition. I mean, at one point in this country, it was tradition to have slaves. Like, that's what everybody did. That's what we always do. But that's not, as we grew, and we all like to grow, it's not okay anymore. And we gotta like start thinking a little more modern and about each other. And that's it.
Thank you.
I would just like to say one more thing.
Follow up, Linda?
The legislative committee meeting, there's no reason why you can't listen to the public, because I've been to them way back with Paul Sanderson, and he did let us speak. So, you know, Susan, you could let us speak, and you would understand why a bill is being brought forth. You'd recognize, you'd hear about some of the positives about the bill. And so you would be able to make a more informed decision. And that's how it happens in the legislature. They have hearings. Yes, when they go into executive session, nobody gets to speak. But that's after everybody has heard everybody's opinion. But all we get in your little legislative committee hearing is you guys.
Okay.
Linda, I'm your county commissioner, and I welcome a phone call or a meeting from you anytime. And I'm your conduit that you can pass that feedback through. I look around and there's actually a handful of people in the room today that I've met with one-on-one and received their feedback. If you send me an email, I will share it with all of my fellow commissioners, but I can be your conduit to get that feedback. I appreciated the commentary that you shared with me after the legislative committee meeting. I didn't know that bill was connected to you, but I would welcome that when you knew that bill was coming out. So anytime you want to call and share your input and feedback, I will be glad to make the time to talk with you.
Okay. You have been helpful in the past. And yeah, that bill I was talking to you earlier about was the wild trout bill.
Yep.
And that's a good bill. It's a good environmental bill, and you rejected that one.
Okay, anyone else? I'm not gonna go 1, 2, 3 this time. We are adjourned.
Second.